Hello there and welcome to Mystic Brick. Very excited for today's episode. Not only will I be building the very first battle map for our first session of the campaign, but I'll also be detailing the start of our journey here and sort of fleshing the world out so you know what we're getting into. Alright, so today's episode is going to be a little different because I'm going to be reading a description of our world and then also the very specific setting for our characters as they start their campaign. But yeah, as you can see, here is the Daggerheart book, and it's beautiful all the way through, very detailed, wonderful. Daggerheart being the new tabletop RPG from Critical Role. So, I think is taking the tabletop RPG world by storm right now. Very exciting and ingenuitive gameplay and mechanics. It's really fabulous. I think very approachable, but also requires a lot of, your own creative input from all players, including the GM, and I think that's just fabulous. So the frame that we collectively chose as a group to play through is the Age of Umbra. The frame is just like a world setting, essentially. This is a very dark world. Some touch points for this might be things like Dark Souls or Berserk, if you know that series. Things like that, where you have a very dark, fallen world and things are quite desperate. It's exciting and very consequential, the decisions that you make. You have to learn to embrace death in this frame, which is really kind of cool. The stakes are very, very high. The members of our group range quite a lot in terms of those who have played RPGs before and those who haven't. So it's really been quite an exciting experience so far, and really we've had such a great time in our first session starting to build this world out. It's just been a crazy ride, and it will continue to be so. It's been wonderful to see the creativity that everyone has brought to the game so far, and I think all of us are very eager to continue our adventure. Okay, so I am building the battle map for our first session here today, and the combat will take place on top of a little plateau as our heroes come out of the swamps and are traversing those swamps. So I've used this rock work sort of on the side to emulate that and have built this map without any sort of strict or rigid angular structure. And what I'm going to start doing now is building the little alcove in which our enemy hides. And so I'm using some sloping bricks for that, keeping this color palette here. As I build, I'm just going to start to read now the setting for the Age of Umbra and then the start of our campaign. So here we go. The Age of Umbra is a dark and broken age within the realm known as the Almizian Domain, which rots in the wake of its pantheon's abandonment. Grandiose cities and awe-inspiring cathedrals to the veiled gods now crumble slowly into ruin. Fallen bastions of the prosperous epoch ruled by the guiding hand of God King Othedius. Othedius, chosen by the veiled gods as the bridge to divinity, conspired with his grand ordinance and ether lords to enact clandestine machinations that could shift the balance in celestial power, enraging the pantheon. His blasphemy was met with cataclysmic retribution. The gods rained destruction upon the land, ending the old world and forsaking the surviving peoples of the Almizian Domain to an existence of growing desolation. The veiled gods then abandoned this world in what is referred to as the apostasy, leaving what remains to wither under ever-growing shadow, the clouded skies growing darker with each passing generation as they herald the world's slow death march into entropy and oblivion. Just real quick here, you can see that I'm building a round tower as I've done before, using 1x1 rounds and 1x2 masonry bricks. And this will just represent some ruins for our adventurers to discover. Okay, back to the story. It's now been nearly a century within the Age of Umbra, and those who remain rebuild what they can among the ruins of the old world. Referring to themselves as the Enduring, these scattered communities of survivors huddle within reinforced battlements where sacred pyres burn as a beacon of hope and safety. All Enduring are trained to survive and defend themselves in this bleak land from a young age. Many honed into fierce warriors and ether weavers through hardship and necessity by the time they reach adulthood. Bands of hunters brave the cracked and twisted landscape beyond their walls each day to gather sustenance, recover materials, and connect or trade with other surviving settlements. However, many of the outside world's wandering beasts have mutated from the corruption of the Umbra. This transient storm of twisted souls merges with and contorts the creatures into nightmarish monsters that stalk, rage, and evolve with each newly fused specter. When these monstrosities slay those who confront the wilds, their victims' blighted souls join the horrors that claim them. In the absence of the gods, dreams turn ominous and empty, and oracles imagine great alien minds glimpsing into this world, reaching beyond the cosmic veil left unguarded. Okay, I'm going to start putting down some of the tile work for the path section now, using a lot of those rounded tiles, some square tiles in there too, and some cheese slopes as well. And then I'm going to be building a sort of dilapidated wall to ensconce all of that. Alright, so that is our frame setting, but now I'm going to read for you the very start of our campaign as written by our GM. So this will initiate our adventure. Dawn bleeds pale and cold over the idle hollows. The mists have not lifted. They never truly do. Shadows hang like torn veils between the vine-choked trees, and the fetid water reflects nothing but the gray of sky and rot of branches. A band of hunters, weathered, silent, heads bowed under weight both physical and unseen, move in single file behind Huntmaster Evrados, a towering giant with sun-scarred skin and eyes sharp as obsidian flint. They descend deeper into the muck, every step swallowed by blackened roots and grasping ferns. The air thickens. There are no bird calls, no frogs, not even insects dare to buzz. Going to be building some vegetation now, and I will be inserting some horrific elements into the floor, which is just indicative of this dire world. Okay, let's get back into it. One hunter, Keta, ridgeborn, young and wiry, whispers, "Feels wrong, this place, like the world's holding its breath." Evrados doesn't answer. His hand is clenched white around his great bow, knuckles pale as bone. Then the trees part, and the land falls away. A sheer drop into a sunken basin, veiled in mist, where a broken temple juts from the mire like a jawbone. Stone steps descend into its yawning mouth, half submerged. Ancient carvings, worn faceless by time and rot, leer from the crumbling facade. "This wasn't here last season," mutters Evrados. He raises a gloved hand to signal halt. The group tightens, weapons unslung. Evrados turns, but something shifts in the fog. A shadow, long-limbed, glistening, barely glimpsed. No noise, no charge, just sudden motion. One moment he stands, the next he is wrenched backwards, bow snapping in half as he is dragged screaming into the temple's hollow. "Evra!" Keta shouts, surging forward, but freezes at the threshold. Evrados is gone. The hunters, wide-eyed with surprise and choked back fear, begin to press forward in search of their leader. They are stopped by the sudden gut-churning sound of tearing, like canvas ripped off seam, cacophonous and throat tightening. Then the smell hits them, a sudden, overwhelming stench, like copper and decay, old blood curdled in oil. Something sharp behind it, acrid, like burned frankincense and bile. The hunters stagger. One drops to her knees, choking. Another clamps a cloth over his mouth, retching into the ferns. The air pulses. The stones hum low, as if groaning awake. Then silence. No movement, no body, just the hunters, panting, stunned, mouths full of copper and rot, staring into the blackness where their leader vanished. The fog thickens once more. So an exciting start at that, and a well-written one, I must say, by our GM. And that will set the scene for where our characters begin their adventure. So before we get into the scene, let's go meet our minifigs, shall we? Each of these is based off of the characters that members of our group created for themselves, and I think they all turned out pretty well. So first up here, we have a clank. A clank is an automaton. So this is Hickory C. Toffins. The C is for caretaker. And Hickory is from the old world that was powered down before the fall and the apostasy. And he's been reawakened by one of his companions a couple years prior to this event. And Hickory is a guardian, so a sort of tanky type, and he wields a battle axe as his primary weapon. And then for his secondary weapon, he has a ratchet sort of clank arm that he uses as a grapple, which I think is pretty cool. So you can see I've used various pieces from the Steampunk Inventor from CMF 27, and then I've given him an Iron Man head from one of those sets, and then also these leg extensions, since Hickory is 7 feet and 2 inches tall. Give him that little green cape there too, and then this unique breastplate from Pickle Bricks. Jules is a half-elf, half-human rogue, a young rogue at that. She's only 10 at the start of our game here, and she is an escaped orphan from the orphanage within the city of Akros. Her fascination with some of the other members of our party leads us to take her in, and she's already proved to be a very ingenuitive and resourceful little rogue, using her disguises quite well as we've gone along through this journey so far. I gave her the Wolfman headpiece because this really was the best fit for this requirement, and I think it turned out really well. Love the way it looks, actually. And then, yeah, she's just wearing overalls here, pretty simple, coming out of that orphanage, and has a dagger as her secondary weapon and a crossbow as her primary weapon. Managed to claim these from the groundskeeper of the orphanage, who kind of took her under his wing and trained her a little bit. I think she turned out really well. Gave her, a headpiece that is double-sided, and yeah, she's looking pretty mean, I think, for a young little orphan child. Appetent Halcyon is a halfling seraph, which is kind of like a paladin class in Daggerheart, so kind of a support tanky character. Appetent recently became a devout follower of the rain god Akrelius when a single drop of rain fell on their forehead while he was journeying. This to them was a divine sign, and once joining that order, they received this fancy golden breastplate and then a very special weapon called the Vajra, which is like a sacred scepter. He hasn't really learned to use this properly yet, but they are training to do so. Many of the townsfolk in Akros look askance at Appetent as they walk by in all their shining regalia, but as you can see, they remain joyously oblivious. Given them a lot of pieces from the D&D set, so the torso and leg piece as well as the headpiece, which came from the monk sorcerer from that set. Got that cool little rapier, and then yeah, this handcrafted Vajra, which I built for them. Lastly, we have a Lulu Blackfang, Lucilia Blackfang. She is a Qatari sorceress, Qatari being a humanoid cat-like person. Lulu has a tragic past, as many do in this world. Most of everyone she's known has died due to the Shadowborn blight and have receded into the Umbra. She is a Loreborn, so in this game you can choose what sort of background you have. These are called communities, and so she is very studied in arcane arts and ancient lore, and is always looking for a way to reverse the Shadow Blight and reclaim those lost souls of her loved ones from the Umbra, resurrect them to the mortal realm, or give them lasting peace in death. I used the Ahsoka head for Lulu, and then I gave her the leg piece from Zaz-Tam, but then also added the pirate skirt from the CMF 27 series, gave her this really cool dagger, which I got from K-Town Bricks, and then, yeah, she's got that cool torso piece as well. Okay, and then we have our enemy for this session, and I'm just going to read you a description of what my GM gave me to create. A towering, grotesque monstrosity, birthed of rot and sacrilege. The Almizian Abomination resembles a mutated swamp moose whose body has fused with the remains of dozens, possibly hundreds, of human limbs and torsos. Its antlers are not bone, but twisted cages of femurs and finger bones. From its bloated sides dangle limbs that twitch without rhythm or coordination, grasping like drowning victims. Its hide is split and torn in places where faces try to form, mouths mumbling prayers to dead gods. So I think I managed to recreate that quite well, all things considered. You know, I gave him that distended belly there, from which the arms come out, and then all these sort of like pustules, which are represented by the translucent yellow, the sort of head pieces that come out of its skin you can see in various places, and I think the antlers turned out pretty well too. Everything moves, it's cool, I dig it. Very happy with the final product. Okay, let's go take a look at our battle map and the scene as it unfolds. And so we've been traversing the swamps just outside of our pyre city, Akros, as we venture toward the Shulk Chasm. And after being lost for some time, we come across this plateau. And as we are ascending it, we discern that there is something perhaps in the bushes here, hidden by the trees in a cave to our right. And so we decide to venture closer. This was the marching order as we all entered the scene, as you can see. We notice that there is a ruin to the left side as well. But all of the plants around us are quite horrific, either having grown out of the remains around them or perhaps having grown them themselves. Somehow this corrupted world has melded all kind of organic matter, both rotting and growing, and indeed the plants seem to sustain themselves on corpses. So I've tried to emulate that here as best as I can, as you can see. Got some skeletal remains hanging from the trees. This one on the right here with the pink leaves, I'm gonna say is stretched flesh that the tree itself is growing. And right there is the glimpse at the Almizian Abomination, which stirs as we approach. Indeed, it comes out onto the path and then the battle has begun. Right off the bat, Hickory runs into the fray with his axe held high and takes a massive swipe at the monstrosity. Unfortunately, the thing ducks and he misses with his first attack. Jules immediately jumps into the tree above the monstrosity and begins to rain down crossbow bolts upon its back, popping some of the pustules as she does. Appetent hops onto the wall and begins to run alongside the beast, almost losing his footing as he does so. And Lulu performs a very agile maneuver, somersaulting and vaulting over the wall and the bushes surrounding her. And then she channels the fire within her to unleash chaos, a very powerful spell that ejects 2 flaming azure orbs at the Almizian Abomination and splits its belly down the middle. Although at this point it seems rather unfazed by that action. The monstrosity wails and lurches forward toward Hickory, trampling over him as it does so, and with its belly now split, 2 more arms fall out and start to batter our sturdy Clank. But despite the indignity of it all, Hickory holds his own pretty well at this point. Appetent, meanwhile, having been able to dodge the creature's charge, is able to attempt a hamstringing maneuver by slicing at its back leg, and Jules from the branches above rains down more bolts upon its back, popping more of those pustules as she does. Here is a close look then at Hickory beneath the moose as he is being accosted by those flailing arms. He is able to thrust his grappling hook, though, into the beast's belly as this is all going on in an attempt to rip those arms off, all the while being covered in spilling viscera and bile. Quite delightful. Lulu manages to fire off another spell and then yells to Jules to aim for the creature's head. And at this point, we perform a team tag maneuver, which, worked out pretty well, I think, in the game. But I think we can do it better next time, using different spells, perhaps, doing a bit more damage. The creature then turns at this and swings its antlers around, knocking Lulu from atop the wall. She is unable to get out of the way in time. Meanwhile, Hickory has managed to rip apart one of its arms, two of its arms, in fact, and is still hacking away at its innards. The abomination is looking pretty haggard at this point, having spilled a great deal of its essence around it. Appetent at this point seizes the opportunity to cripple the beast once and for all. And fumbling for a moment with their Vajra, they decide it would be best to hurl it right at the abomination. And that is exactly what he does, spearing it through the middle and slaying the beast. This is where we decided to end our session. It had gone on for quite some time at this point, but a fantastic first battle, I would say, in which we all did some pretty cool things. And yeah, next session we'll be starting right here, and we'll be able to explore this map a little bit more, repair ourselves, and decide what next to do. So when you tune in next week, we'll be starting right here, and then we'll be moving on to the next battle map, whatever that might be. Hey, I hope that you have enjoyed this episode, a bit of a different one for sure. Let me know in the comments whether you like the extended storytelling or not. I might not do so much of that in future episodes, depending. I just wanted to really set the scene for this world so far. But it was a great deal of fun. We are really having a wonderful time with this campaign so far, and I cannot wait to continue to tell you more of the story and build more of these sets. We should definitely have another companion joining us next week, so look out for that. And thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Have a wonderful day now. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye now.